We're gonna basically dig into Apple and why it's valued at $3 trillion. I really do want to dig into this. You guys were talking about it in the group chat.
Yeah.
Like, tell me about it. What is it?
Man, first off, like we just gotta unpack the fact that it's reached $3 trillion. So for those wondering, like if you wanted to purchase Apple today and say you wanted to buy it outright, you would have to pay $3 trillion to get it, to own
That's
it.
wild.
It's insane. Like, and the human brain cannot comprehend a trillion. So let's do that. Can you Google 3 trillion in numbers, and it should show like the number of zeros and stuff like that. And there's actually a way of showing it in terms of football fields where
Okay.
you can visualize what a million represents and then what a billion represents and then what a trillion represents. And that does okay, so it's
So this
oh
is
wow, yeah,
one trillion.
that's a great picture right there.
Okay, so $100 million is that?
And then a
One
billion dollars
billion.
is right there.
Okay. Holy shit.
So that's a football, was that a football field of $100, right? I can't
A
read that.
soccer field.
Okay.
It's a
What does
soccer
it say?
field, and each crate is $100 million.
Each
And this is
crate.
yeah, each one of those mini crates is 100 million. And so that that whole football field is 1 trillion, not even three. It's one. So three
Oh
of
my
those.
goodness. Oh my goodness. So I hope everyone that's watching it picked up on that. So maybe cool if you just point your mouse over the silhouette there with the one crate of 100 million,
Yeah,
because that's what
they
you're saying is each of those are placed on this soccer field, right? The football field.
yeah, yeah.
Dang. And there's three of them because it's this one represents $1 trillion, right? So you need to, oh man. So yeah, so that right there helps with like, really visualizing what this truly means. And it's
Yeah.
insane because I think there's a handful of companies that have breached $1 trillion, and Apple is by far like top of the pack. I think the
Mhm.
next is just about at two or maybe under two. We could find that out as well. Regardless, we want to talk about Apple. So they just breached $1 trillion and they closed at that mark too. So they're officially like $1 trillion company, $3 trillion
Wow.
company. Sorry.
Yeah, that's wild. That is wild. You sent this other kind of website
Yeah.
as well, the valuation.
Yeah, we'll get into the valuation a bit. Maybe we'll talk a bit about, what makes Apple so valuable. Maybe we can just talk about that. Maybe share what you think about what makes Apple valuable from your perspective, and I'll share mine.
I think we can take a look at the fundamentals, but overall, in terms of just their customers and the marketing ability that they have,
Mm-hmm.
right? First of all, I think that's the reason they have that success.
Yeah.
They have insanely large margins, so they've positioned themselves as a premium product.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then they have insanely loyal customers, right? Like
Yeah.
people who become their customers outright become very loyal, and
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's because of the fact, first, they're spending a lot of money initially to buy into this ecosystem, and then once they buy into the ecosystem, they realize that you have to use their ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
So they buy in more and they can upsell a lot of these other things, right? And once somebody spends that much money, I think psychologically they think, all right, I need to stay within this ecosystem. So it's like a vendor lock in. Like I've already locked in spending so much money in this ecosystem
Yeah.
that I need to spend more, right? And
Yeah.
then plus on top of that, they're known as a premium product, so it makes people feel better about themselves for having spent that much money. So they'll defend it now as well.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
there's so many facets of like entrenchment in terms of like how they get you, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the reason I argue against Apple every time, where I'll make those jokes where they're like, they'll charge you for $50,000 like computer, like for insane things that you can do. Granted, it's powerful computers, and then they'll be like free shipping, and it's like I better be getting free shipping after all that. Like that's freaking wild. But they have that joke where they'll be like, I'll sell you a computer, but like you got to buy the keys yourself. Like the keyboard's not included or some shit, right?
Yeah.
It's like they charge you for everything, right? So I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. It's funny because like they leverage their brand to the fullest, and it's crazy. Like it shows the power of building a brand where you can charge whatever you
Mm.
want and someone will purchase it just because you've built your reputation, your credibility, and they have done this for decades now, right? I think that's their main competitive advantage, and I think it gets backed up by the ecosystem that you said, right? Because it's like that, in my opinion, creates a very hard scenario for someone to switch into using something else,
Yeah.
right? Because you trap them in that ecosystem, and granted, like, they make it seamless to use as well, that you
Mm-hmm.
want to stay on. Like, it's one thing to get you into the ecosystem, but then it's not that great, right?
Yeah.
But it's another thing that it's so smooth to use, right? And both you and I are not Apple users, right? But
Yeah.
I see other people that have Apple products, and I see how simple it is for them to just use the products, where you can start typing an email or a message on your phone and then carry it over on your Mac. And then
Mm-hmm.
from your Mac, move over to your iPad. Maybe you're watching a
Right.
YouTube video on your iPad, then you continue watching it on your phone later on. Like, it's insane, the ability to just switch between the different products without
Mm.
hampering your user experience, like not making it a pain to, like, oh, where was I again? Oh, did it save everything? No, it's so
Yeah.
seamless, and I think that reinforces the brand, right? And then that reinforces people wanting to experience that, because when they see other people experiencing it, like, okay, yeah, I want to experience that too, and then they get
Yeah.
into the ecosystem, and it just creates this like huge cycle of just people just entering the ecosystem and then staying in the ecosystem and continuing to purchase whatever Apple throws out there, right?
Mm-hmm. Do you think that with all this kind of scare about inflation and just like people spending money and how much money they'll have to spend, I guess my question is it recession proof? Will people still buy these premium products when it's very hard to buy other items, like even groceries, right? Like people are having trouble buying groceries. Like, do you think people will still buy these types of products when they're faced with that type of situation?
Yeah, that's interesting, because I guess we could take a look at how they were faring in 08, 09, right? Because that would have been after the first iPhone launch, right? The first iPhone was 06, right? So we could use that as a gauge, right? You could see like what their sales were in maybe 08, 09, 2010.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Well, that's the stock price, right? That probably won't
Right.
help us a lot. Maybe if you go to financials, if you click on financials there at the top,
Yep.
yeah, and then see if you can go back. Okay, yeah, Google just shows a snapshot. So if you go to the other link I sent you, Seeking Alpha, and then yeah, that one, and then go to financials. Yeah, they should have it spread out. Oh, okay. Maybe I should have shared it, because I have a premium account, so I have everything
Right.
unlocked.
Yeah, yeah.
So I can actually
So
go back all the
yeah,
way. Yeah,
just how about you just take a look and then tell us. In the meantime,
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
my thought on this is like when it's like dire situation, like
yeah.
people can't put food on the table, then
Mm-hmm.
you're generally not going to be buying premium products. But the good thing about Apple is they took advantage of this decade, man. They really just were a cash hoard and they're like, yeah, no worry, bring it in, bring it in. We're just gonna be cash kind of heavy and we will weather any storm that comes about, right? And we're not going to decrease our margins. And I think they have the ability to just weather the storm for a very long time, right? And also they'll probably like follow suit and just lay off people and things like that and just be fiscally responsible, which they've always
Yeah.
been. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think what they'll just end up doing is just weather the storm when stuff gets tough, and then on the other
Mm-hmm.
end they're still charging the same amount, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so they're not going to decrease their kind of margins, which I guess, yeah, I appreciate. And I think that will allow them to be a very successful company in 10 years and 15 years. And that was going to be my next question, like, do you think it will grow as quickly? Granted, now they don't have the Steve Jobs, right? They are
Yeah.
innovating, but like they don't have the person that they once required, or at least seemed like they required, to kind of propel the company forward and have that vision.
Well, like, if you just look at the last few years, right? I believe it was around what was it, like 2017, 18, 19, around one of those years
Mm.
where they were talking about, oh, what's Apple going to do? There's a decline in iPhone sales now. What do they have up their sleeve? They're just an iPhone company. All they do is sell phones. And then what
Mm.
do they do? they, they added services, right? They added Apple TV Plus. Yeah, I think that's the main one that they added, and they added other things as well within the ecosystem, and they kept improving their product. And people still go out there and pay more than $1,000 for these phones, for the iPads. And speaking to your earlier point about recession, about how they fared during recession, yeah, I think there'll probably be a decrease in sales. People may want to hold on to their older phones. I think it'll be just the ones who have to buy or are coming into the market.
Right.
They'll probably buy an iPhone, right? But maybe the ones who are upgrading, say every year, maybe wait 2 years now, right? I
Mm.
think we'll see more of that. But then, and I wish I could share this on my screen, but it was also nice to see the breakdown of the segments, the revenue segments, because from
Right.
my understanding, their services segment has increased in the last like few years, and I think
Okay.
that will carry on going forward as people move into, for example, fully streaming TV and live TV, even, right? I think they have a couple
Mm.
deals with live sports.
Yes, you were saying,
That
yeah.
yeah. So that's gonna help a lot as well. So I see them being there 10, 15 years from now, because the other thing that I was thinking about is and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it too. It's like, what is the evolution of a smartphone? Is it VR? Is it Apple, what's it called? Apple Vision Pro, right?
Yeah.
Is that the next evolution of phones? Like, where are we going with phones, right? Like, what is the
Right.
next iteration? Like, for the longest time, we haven't seen a big leap in innovation in terms of what a phone looks like, how we interact with it, ever since the
Right.
iPhone came out, right? I think the closest we're seeing now is those foldable phones, right?
Right.
But it's still very similar interactions. I wouldn't say it's like changing the game. It's just adding more screen real estate, right? Maybe it's making
Right.
easier to view a movie on your phone, so maybe you don't need an iPad now to view movies, or maybe you have a bigger screen for your Zoom meetings
Right.
now, maybe, right? So when you're on the go, you could use a foldable phone for that purpose. I don't know, just things that I'm thinking about, right? But
Mm-hmm.
we haven't really like seen that next evolution,
Leap.
like leap,
Right.
exactly, in the technology. So, and I think Apple's going to be the leader in that. Is Apple Vision Pro the next? I don't know, but like, it's time will tell.
Yeah, I think like it'd be interesting to see if Apple Vision Pro or something along those lines takes the next evolution. I think there's a step in between, right, before it gets there, because those are too bulky, and I don't see us going to that right away. At least
Mm-hmm.
the vast majority of people not going to that right away. I think there needs to be an intermediary step in between, and
Yeah.
there's a guy, I was watching a TED talk where he was doing it so that you don't have a phone, but your screen's on your hand. So there's like a thing over here that displays onto your hand, and you can use this your hand as a surface. So now nothing is kind of visually there, but it gets projected onwards, and it can track like how much you're walking and things along those lines.
So you were talking about the next possible evolution, right, of
Yeah.
smartphone.
So it was kind of like a thing over here, and it just projects, right? So I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking that could be interesting, though things like, I don't know if people would want to get away from like Netflix and being able to actually visualize, so I don't know how that would work.
Well, can't you just like, wouldn't the next iteration of that be VR?
Yeah, after that, yes. But I would assume that if you want an intermediate step, it needs to at
Mm-hmm.
least be as good as what you have on screen, right? Like VR is going to be better, I feel, right? Because now you can have 3D, but you can also have AR and just see other things around the world, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
always on. But in between that, it needs to be like some sort of like wearable that still allows you to have this experience of at least the phone, if not better. But with this
Mm.
thing, it didn't seem like it was better. It seemed like it's a wearable thing, but it's not going to make your phone experience better. So I think you would still need the phone, but this would be an addition to that, and then maybe people see the value in it, and then it jumps to AR VR. But also, we don't know the impact of VR with glasses and like how close those screens are, and you
Yeah.
can barely wear it at like for like 20 minutes, and your head starts hurting, right? So it's like,
You
I
you
don't
wore it?
Oh yeah. Like which one? Not the Vision Pros.
Oh, Meta,
Yeah, Meta. Like even
Oculus.
Oculus,
Yeah.
you wear it for like 20, 30 minutes and your head starts hurting, right? So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think whatever happens, Apple is going to be the leader or one of
Mm.
the leaders in that front. I can't see them getting dethroned. I can't
Mm.
see that happening, right? And that's one of like the things that I like looking at when I look at companies is like, you know, how easy is it for someone to come up and do what Apple's doing?
Right.
And they've, you know, we've already talked about the ecosystem and stuff like that. Like, it's going to be super challenging, and if anyone does come up out of nowhere, they may just get bought out, whether it's
Right.
by Apple or by one of the other competitors, right? Like Facebook or Meta, I should say. Sorry. So
Right.
like from that perspective, and they just spit so much cash that they could throw money at anything.
Honestly. So like this free cash flow, like what do these numbers mean? The 7.
What does it say at the bottom?
Nothing really. That's the weird part. It's just
I don't use Guru Focus a whole lot. I actually use Seeking Alpha more, but it would be good on my account because I got the premium, so you can't see it. But if I bring it up here and we look at their free cash flows, I'm just pulling it up on Seeking Alpha.
mm-hmm.
So if we go to the cash flow statement and okay, so the free cash flow per share is, so the trailing 12 months right now, it's $6.11 per share, right? So if you times that by the amount of shares there are, and you can probably find that on the Google page. So there's okay, it doesn't show there. So if I go to the summary on Seeking Alpha, okay. Yeah. Okay. So the total common shares outstanding is 15,723 million. Right? That makes sense, right? No. Or does it?
If it's yeah, then in that's like 15
Yeah, it's in
billion.
millions. It's in millions. It's in millions.
Yeah, so
So it's showing as 15723 million, right?
okay.
Does that make sense? That makes sense.
15723. Yeah, 15,000. So that's it. Yeah. What is that? That's 15 billion shares then, right?
15723. Oh, we can't even do simple math right now. Okay, so it's 15. Would it be 15 billion shares? Okay, so 15 billion shares. There's 9 zeros in a billion, right? So, so let's just do 15 billion times $6 per share, or 611. No, it doesn't make sense. Hold on. Let's see if I can get the actual number in free cash flow without the per share number. Just to make it easier here. Okay, so it shows showing the free cash flow. There's a levered amount and an unlevered amount. I'm using Seeking Alpha. Normally what I do is like I manually calculate it out. So what I'll do is I'll look at the operating cash flow, right? And then I take away the capital expenditures, and then that generally leaves you with free cash flow, right? But Seeking Alpha actually labels it out. So they show it as levered and unlevered. I'm just gonna take levered because that's a lower amount. 83. So it's 83,796 million.
Wow.
That's the free cash flow they generated in the last 12 months.
That's wild.
And so that would be $83 billion.
Yep.
That's $83 billion in free cash flow. So that's insane.
Yeah.
And I guess it justifies the trillion, does it? So this goes into something that I want to talk about, right? Is Apple worth purchasing right now?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, is the share worth purchasing, right?
Well, that's the main question, right?
Yeah.
Because I was looking at the original thing we saw here, and Guru Focus was saying 143. That's what it's worth.
Yeah.
It's worth.
Yeah.
It's priced at 193 right now, and margin safety is negative 35%. They're saying your expected growth rate of 20% may not be reached, right? That's what you need, I guess, to be able to reach 193 as a fair value price, I guess.
Yeah.
And so
if you click on the plus and minus buttons there, it'll change it up, and then you can, yeah, there you go.
So basically it needs to grow at 20%
to justify this buying it now, right?
Yeah.
I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening. I think because they're a pretty mature company.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you're saying it's a 20% growth rate, so then what you're saying is that whatever they're achieving now, if you do the rule of 72 and you divide 72 by 20 growth rate, so that means you're saying that it's gonna double in 3 years, or so.
Hmm.
The growth is gonna double every 3 years.
Right. Right.
Roughly three and a half, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know how good that is, because that's not talking about the market cap, right? The market cap is just how much it's valued at, but the growth rate, as it said, is based on the earnings per share, right? So you're saying
Right.
that the earnings per share is going to double every three and a half years, which I don't know if that's I don't know
Yeah. It
because the
potentially
last
could. It
it
potentially
could,
could.
yeah, for sure. And it shows you it shows you how they got the 14.9, right? The default. It tells it to you in that little bar, the question icon thingy.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's doing that based on the historical EPS in the past like 10 years or so, I believe.
Right.
So if you go to the question mark there on where it says growth stage.
This one right here.
Yeah. See, it says there the default value for the growth rate is the average EPS without NRI growth, which I don't know what the hell that is. But anyways, without NRI growth of the past 10 years. So yeah, it's looking at the past 10 years, and the original number I think was 14.9, right?
Yeah.
So it's saying that at the very minimum, if it just achieves the same growth rate, which again, I don't know if that will happen, because if you think about it, 10 years ago was 2013, and
Mm-hmm.
iPhone just launched in 06. So that's 7 years of the iPhone. They were in massive growth, I would say, at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now they're more mature. Right,
Yeah.
they're more mature. I think they've exhausted a lot of their growth,
Yeah.
if
But
that makes sense, right?
when was Apple founded? You have to keep in mind that it's like they've been 1976, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the majority of their insane growth happened in the last decade,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so it's like if they make a foundational change like the iPhone, again, like you're saying, like if VR takes off and they're the platform,
Then
it
they
would
could
be
get it.
they could get it, right? It could be
Yeah,
a game changer.
yeah. And I guess that's what people are, or
Banking.
the market is betting on. Yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah.
what the market's betting on. Because I just did a quick math there. If you take the free cash flow number that we talked about, 85 billion, and you divide that by, or you divide, sorry, 3 trillion by 85 billion, that would give you so it's trading at 35 times free cash flow. Right. And then if you go to the summary tab there, it may show you the historical free cash flow ratio. Yeah. Price to price. There you go. Okay, so I was close. So it's around 32. And then you see, and it does a nice job of showing versus history, and see how it's red. So
Mhm.
my guess is that it's at the high of the range. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Right? So it's at the high of the range. So like for me, like the way I look at things, I like approaching it from, I want to buy value, right? I want to buy underappreciated assets.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say this is overvalued just
Yeah.
by looking at that, just from a free cash flow standpoint, right? And for me, like that's one of the main numbers I look at, because that's actual cash that the company has that they can put to work in whatever
Right.
way they want, right?
Right.
And that's a key number. And a lot of the big gurus talk about that too, like Bill Ackman, Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger. Like free cash is key. So just looking at that and looking at the historical ratio, the range,
Right.
it being at the higher range, that gives me a red flag right there. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
this seems overvalued.
Apple always does seem again, even the stock
That's
price
true.
has a premium.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I see your point.
Yeah, I think there's also that aspect of, okay, it's like it's a known commodity, or it's a known asset, like, you know, it has a proven track record, all of that. So maybe you could consider paying a premium for it, right?
Yeah.
But I still think it's a little too high. Maybe if it was because it was at it hit like 120 or 125 like a
That's
few
when it was
months
good.
ago.
Yeah.
I would say it was still overvalued. I did take a look at it. It was overvalued in my books at that time, but I guess everyone looks at it differently, right? If you're willing to pay a premium for an absolutely amazing company,
Yeah.
then okay, you know, like you maybe some people are willing to pay a fair price for a wonderful company.
Right.
I just like bargains, so that's just me.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, I guess.
Well, what about you? Would you buy it?
I don't think at this price. I think it is a bit too high for me, personally. And I know that price isn't a factor. It's like
What's
I
the
think
value that you get?
exactly right. And I think Apple does provide a lot of value. You can clearly see to a lot of people, and I think they're gonna keep winning. But they're gonna win. They will win if they change the game in terms of a platform. I think then that's when they're gonna skyrocket. And I would have to really dig down and do my kind of thesis on this one to be able
Mm-hmm.
to know if Apple is that company that's gonna come up with the different platform. Like for example, Nvidia. That's
Yeah.
one that I'm like I feel like I've kind of missed the boat on, but not really. That's something I would want to really dig into and say, is
Let's
it going
talk
to
about that
be
next time.
yeah, I think that would be a good company to talk about. But yeah,
Yeah, I'm down.
anyways, I think this was a good thing. I guess in conclusion, obviously do your own research. This is not financial advice, and I think we would urge you to do your own research and really dig into it. But from Turan's and my perspective, this is a bit overvalued, but it is a great company nonetheless.
It is
Would
the
you agree?
best of the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the best of the best. I just can't see myself paying that much for something right now.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you guys made it this far, please subscribe. It means the world to us. We really thank you for that. And yeah, catch you next time. Take care.
Sayonara.